Okay, a quick class on why I Bitcoin. Yeah, why I accept Bitcoin, why I take Bitcoin, and why I prefer Bitcoin so much that the course in this money, in pounds, dollars, rubles or euros, my courses at the moment cost £12 if you use the coupon code. But if you come to me and say, I want to buy your courses in Bitcoin, well then they only cost £8. And you don't actually have to talk to me. You can actually just come to my page on, this is Nostra. It's a decentralized form of the internet, and I like decentralization. If you come to this page, you'll be able to zap me 10,000 Satoshis, which are the smaller currency for Bitcoin. They're called Satoshis, after Satoshi Nakamoto, the guy who is anonymous. We don't know who he is, but who created Bitcoin, or the group of people. And these 10,000 Satoshis is about £8. So for 10,000 Satoshis, I will give you any one of my courses. And I prefer you to pay in Bitcoin. That's why I give you the discount, because I don't actually want this money, which is worth less every year. I want this money, which maintains its purchasing power and is worth more every year in those terms. Of course it is. It's been worth more every year for the last 15, 16 years. I think it's 15 years actually. I'm not sure. But every single year it's worth more in these terms, in pounds or dollars or rubles or euros. And there are good reasons for that. So what are those good reasons? Let me quickly explain. This is real money. Yeah, it's real money. Nobody declared Bitcoin as money. Yeah, Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever the hell he was, yeah, we don't even know who he was, but or she was. But nobody, he or she did not stand up and say, I declare that Bitcoin is money. Nothing like it. Because Bitcoin is totally voluntary. You don't have to use it. Yeah, you only use it if you think that it's worth using it. And I happen to think it's certainly worth using. This money is money created by decree. This is why it's called fiat currency, because fiat means let it be so. It's when someone like Julius Caesar says, let this be money, and everybody else has to use it as money because Caesar has said that this is money. And so who is the Caesar in England and America and Russia and Europe? Well, it's the central bank. It's the central bank that's in charge. It's the central bank that declares this is real money. Yeah, real. This is real money. It's a central bank. And this is why it's worth less and less every year. Let me explain. The money supply in all of these countries is regularly increased. In fact, annually, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So there are more and more pounds or dollars or rubles or euros in circulation. And that's why your money is worth less and less every year. Yeah, even my dad saw this, and he was not a financial guy at all. He kept his money under his mattress. That's where he kept his money. I can tell you now because he's no longer around, sadly. But he knew very well that the money supply was inflated by the central bank, by the government, every single year. And he even warned me, don't save in pounds. Why not? Why shouldn't I save in pounds? Because in 5 years, £10 will be worth about £3, yeah? It doesn't maintain its purchasing power. It gets worth less and less every year. And so only idiots save their money in pounds or dollars or rubles or euros. And I don't mean to offend anybody, but if you save your money like that, you are getting poorer and poorer and poorer. The wise people in these countries who want to save money, they don't save money in dollars or pounds or rubles or euros. They buy real estate. Yeah, they buy real estate. Why? Because real estate maintains its purchasing power much better than any of these fiat currencies, which were created by a central banker who just said, this is money. This is what you have to use as money. They are created by decree, by authority, by a central authority who says, this is money. And when that central authority decides that they need to scare the whole population with monkeypox or swine flu or some other ridiculous disease, which may well be totally imaginary, Well, they'll need everybody to sit at home and not go to work. So they'll need to create a load of money out of thin air. And that will help them make the lockdown affordable. Yeah, that will help them pay for the lockdown. But really, each and every citizen is paying for their own lockdown. They're paying to have themselves locked up. They're paying for their children to be locked away from their friends, which is a form of abuse, by the way, and should never be allowed to happen again. And certainly the people should be punished who did it in the first place. But if you're in favour of your money supply being inflated for war, yes, sometimes the government wants to go to war and it needs to buy weapons, it needs to pay for the soldiers. And so how can they do that if they use real money? They can't. They need to use money which they create by decree. And so that's exactly what they do. They print up a load of money to go to war. This is why we have massive inflation in periods of war or periods of pandemic. Yeah, or periods when everybody is locked up in their homes for God knows what reasons. They'll need money to afford that. And they'll obviously need a massive public sector. Yeah, so lots of people working for the government, perhaps in positions which are totally unnecessary for society, perhaps in positions which are detrimental to society, but they'll need money for that ever increasing and ever growing public sector. They'll need money in order to enforce this war or this lockdown or this pandemic, whatever rubbish they want to put money into. And so really, this money created by decree, this encourages the population to spend. Because who wants to keep their pounds when they know that their pounds are going to be worth less next year? And so people try and find something safe to put their money in. Maybe they put their money in gold because they think gold is real money, gold is safe. And so that's certainly been a tactic, a strategy that many people used, let's say before 2008 when Bitcoin came along. I was certainly one of them, by the way. I was someone who saved my money when I lived very far away in gold, or admittedly it was in a paper form of gold, but let's not go into the details there. But when I wanted to get that money back across a border, and it was across a border which is not easy to take money across, and most borders are not easy to take money across. If you take £100,000 in your rucksack through an airport, they'll probably stop you, and they'll probably want you to pay some kind of tax, some kind of fee on taking that money across the border. So this is another point, that it's very expensive to send this money across a border. Once again, we don't have that problem with Bitcoin. When I tried to send money across borders, it took at least 1 week. The money had to go in escrow. I had saved some money because I wanted to, well, we had already started a family. So I had to buy a house for that family. And so the only way I could do that was by saving, and I couldn't do it by saving in any of those. I had to save in gold. And then when I wanted to send it across the border, it cost me a lot of money, and it took at least 1 week. If Bitcoin had existed at that time, because it was actually a long time ago, and I had used Bitcoin, it would have taken about 10 minutes. I would have paid about, I think at that time, it was a long time ago, so maybe about 2 or 3p for the service of sending thousands and thousands of pounds from one country to another. But if I converted it to Bitcoin, yes, if I had converted it to Bitcoin, it would have been very easy, really straightforward and very quick. So this is another point that I want to compare. This is another reason why I Bitcoin. Let me give you another good reason why I Bitcoin. Obviously, you might have noticed that I'm not in favour of war. I'm not in favour of lockdown. I'm never in favour of a pandemic, never. And I'm not really in favour of a growing public sector. And so if you feel the same way as me, you might also want to choose real money, because with Bitcoin, it's impossible to increase the supply of Bitcoin. 21 million is the maximum, and the maximum's actually less than that because people have already lost their passwords to perhaps 1 million of that. And that's one point about Bitcoin that I want to warn you all about. Bitcoin is connected to a password. These currencies are connected to your identity in a bank account, but this is only connected to a password. So you have to be responsible and memorize, write down that password, never write it down on the internet, never take a photo of it with your phone or something like that, because if you do that, you are allowing hackers to look at the image. They will immediately know it's your Bitcoin password because of the way Bitcoin passwords work. And so you should never do that. You should only write it down or memorize it, or both. Perhaps that's the best way. And then you put it in a place where no one will find it and where it will be safe forever. So that's how Bitcoin works, a little bit about how Bitcoin works, but it's impossible to increase the supply of Bitcoin, and this is why it maintains its purchasing power. This is why it goes up in value in these terms every single year, because this money supply is growing every year and this money supply is capped. It stays the same. So that's why it's worth more and more and more in pounds, dollars, rubles, euros every single year. And what you notice when you have real money, when you use real money rather than money created by the decree of a central banker, what this does is it encourages people to save rather than to spend. Why would you spend your money if it's going to be worth more next year? There's no point. You don't need to look for gold. You don't need to look for real estate, which is what a lot of wealthy people do. And by the way, that's why house prices are so high, because people don't only use houses to live in as they should. They use houses as a form of money. It's as a form of storing your money, storing your purchasing power. Now, if there's something already better to store your purchasing power in, people will stop buying real estate to store their purchasing power. They won't do it anymore when there's something better. And so this is another advantage about Bitcoin. And this is precisely why, if I'm looking to buy something and there are two vendors, one accepts Bitcoin and one accepts these guys, I always use the vendor that takes Bitcoin. Always. I know that I'm making the world a better place when I send money to a Bitcoiner. When I send money to a central bank slave, I know I'm making the world a worse place. And so I don't do that. I send money to the Bitcoiners. And this is why I take Bitcoin, by the way. And so it encourages people to save. You don't want to spend your money if it's worth more next year. It encourages the whole population to save money and look to the future. Yeah, and they're able to do things for their children then and make the world a better place for their children. And so maybe you're a family man. If you are a family man or a family woman, this is certainly the currency which has more advantages for you. There's no doubt in my mind. Okay. Now, another point, this money is the one which is involuntary. Nobody asked you, do you want to use pounds as money? Do you want to use dollars as money? Do you want to use rubles? No one asked you. The government just demanded that when you went to work, and work is not a choice. A man's got to eat, yeah? Well, a woman's got to eat. And so work is not a choice. And when you work, you have to pay your taxes in these currencies. And that makes these currencies totally involuntary. You have no choice. Bitcoin is voluntary. Nobody has ever forced anybody to use Bitcoin. It's totally your choice. And for me, that's another plus, yeah? Nobody's forcing Bitcoin onto the population. People are talking about it. People are recommending it, as I am. But it's voluntary. It's up to you. You are free to totally ignore everything I say and carry on paying all your taxes in these forms, because I can't stop that, guys. That's what your governments do. They put you in prison if you don't pay your taxes in these currencies. And so of course it's involuntary. You will be punished if you don't use these forms of money, but this form of money is voluntary. Now, one more point is that it's centralized. It's a central bank that's in charge. Yeah, it's a central government that decides how much money needs to be created every single year for the next war, the next lockdown, the next pandemic, the next ridiculous public sector project. It's a central power that's in charge. It's centralized. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is decentralized. What does that mean? It means that no one is in charge. No one is in charge. The whole network agrees to cap the supply at 21 million. And no one's going to ever change their mind, because nobody wants their money to be worth less and less and less. Yeah, nobody wants this. Yeah, no one wants this. Everybody wants money to maintain its purchasing power. That's what makes money money, that it maintains its purchasing power. That's why I call Bitcoin real money, as opposed to money because somebody said it was money. Yeah, the central bank said it was money. The central bank said that you got to pay your taxes in that money. Okay, so I've already explained that this is the expensive and slow version of sending a lot of money across a border. Very slow, very expensive. This is the really quick and easy and convenient way to send money across a border. So you only need a phone, you only need a computer or a phone, because that's all you need to get Bitcoin working. You download the software, you make sure you've got authentic software, and you use Bitcoin in a very easy way. I've been doing it for a long time now, and I find that Bitcoin is very easy to use, very user friendly, and I find the whole community of Bitcoiners extremely friendly, extremely welcoming, and very, very helpful if you ever need some advice, for example, because nobody was born knowing how to use Bitcoin, and so we all need advice sometimes. Now, another point, transactions in all of these currencies can and are regularly censored by the bank or by the government. I hate being told who I can do business with, but I am regularly told that I'm not allowed to do business with Iran, I'm not allowed to do business with Russia. Now, whether I have any, understanding of why that is, a lot of the time, no, I don't. I have no idea why that is. And I'm not going to go into any kind of politics or war talk at the moment, but I like to be the one who decides who I can do business with. I happen to have a lot of students in countries which are now censored from my own currency, and their currency is not able to be sent to me. Yeah, and so transactions can be censored and are censored by the central bank and by those wise people in our government that decide to expand the money supply every single year. Okay, so transactions can be censored. Over here, nobody can censor your transactions. You can transact, you can buy and sell with anybody. You don't need anybody's permission with Bitcoin, and you should never need anybody's permission to trade with another human being. What gives anybody the right to tell you who you can do business with? Nothing, I would argue. Nothing gives those people the right. Now, lastly, I have noticed, one reason why I really like Bitcoiners, and I like the Bitcoin gang, I like all of those Bitcoin platforms, for example, like this one, which is a form of Nostra. This is actually a client, Primal, that offers a service of getting you onto Nostra. But Nostra is a decentralized form of the internet. It's connected to Bitcoin, so it's very easy to send people Bitcoin on Nostra. That's why I really like it. And on this Nostra platform, what you'll notice is that these are people who know they can and will make the world a better place. Bitcoin is for people who believe, who know. They don't just believe, they know that they have real agency. They know that they can change the world. I've just noticed that people that don't believe in Bitcoin, people that call Bitcoin a religion, that kind of thing, very often they are people who don't believe in their own power to make the world a better place. They don't believe they have any agency. They believe in a government that is all powerful, like the Illuminati, like some conspiracy, some group of people who have ultimate power over everything. They will never let you stop, but they will never let you stop using their currencies. And that's what these people believe. I think they're quite often conspiracy theorists, and they have this imagined or learned helplessness. They have learned that they are helpless, that they can't change the world in any way, that the world will forever be a miserable, stupid place. And it's because there are people in charge, these central bankers, these central governing, these like the guardians in Plato's Republic. They're all powerful, and they don't believe that they, as small little plebs, have any power to change things in their lives. And I think that's quite sad. So I hope that you're not one of these people who imagines that you have no agency whatsoever, that you have no way of making the world a better place, and so you will simply accept money created by the central bankers by decree. You'll just accept that and accept that you aren't going to ever make the world, your world, any better. And that's sad. And so I hope that if you are feeling like that, that you, more and more, you will recognise your own agency. You'll recognise your own power to change the world and to make things better, not only in your own life, but in everybody else's life as well. Okay, so they are just a few reasons why I Bitcoin. I'm sorry if I have done badly in explaining some of these points. I know I haven't gone into great detail, but I just wanted to give a general summary of why I Bitcoin, seeing as so many times now I'm telling people, private classes, you need to buy Bitcoin. Okay, thanks for watching.